Hello, my friends. I am Dr. Bree, and I'm going to share with you a simple psoas release. And also, I want to share with you before we get to that I'm releasing a new at-home 3-day pelvic tension retreat. So all of the details for that retreat can be found in the video notes or in the pinned comment. I'm actually going to be working on it over the next couple of weeks, and so it won't be available into the first week of October 2020. So if you're watching this right when this video first releases, you're going to have to wait a little bit of time before you can get access to the 3-day retreat. If you're watching it in the future, I'll make sure that the links are updated so you can still sign up and get the 3 days sent to you. So again, it's a 3-day at-home retreat for pelvic tension. And this is an amazing place to start for anybody who is dealing with really any condition. Whether you just want to get to know your pelvic floor, or you just want to develop more awareness of these muscles, or if you're dealing with pelvic pain and tension, this is obviously going to be a great place for you to start. Also, if you have bladder control issues or prolapse, anything like that, you're actually going to benefit first by releasing and letting go of the pelvic floor and the deep core muscles before you can begin to successfully strengthen. So pretty much no matter who you are, if you have a body, whether you're male or female, no matter what, you can benefit from this 3-day at-home pelvic tension retreat. It's coming up, so check the video notes, check the pinned comment. I'll make sure that the links are always updated so you can sign up and get access to it. All right, without further ado, let me talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. We're going to do a psoas release. So it is really truly the most simple thing you could ever imagine, but just so you know, you will need about 15 minutes to do it. So I recommend doing this regularly, and I'll tell you a little bit about why, what the psoas is, where it is, and also why you want to maybe think about doing this on a regular basis and why I'm doing it as well. So I'll share a little bit about all of that. But in the inset picture, you can see what this is going to look like. You can see exactly how simple this is to do. The inset video will be somewhere. So take a look at that and I'll explain exactly what you're doing in just a sec. But first, let me show you where the muscle is that we are even talking about. So the psoas major, is a muscle that starts actually in your lumbar spine. So it actually hooks to these little sides of your spine, your lumbar spine, the lower part, and it goes down and hooks onto your thigh bone, your femur. So we're talking about a muscle that runs kind of like where my hand is right now, okay? Now, there's another muscle that blends in with this psoas major, so it's called the iliacus. And they kind of blend together at the bottom, and so a lot of people will refer to this as the iliopsoas. So we today are specifically going to be releasing the psoas major, and then we're also, if you stay to the end, I'll show you a cool technique to help massage and release the iliacus as well. So we're going to work on it all, but just again to review, what we're talking about is the psoas major, which goes from here down to here, and then later we'll talk about the iliacus, which is kind of like a fan-shaped muscle right here where my hand is, where my palm and fingers attach. Let's go ahead and get to the release. And then when we're in the position, I'll tell you a little bit more about kind of my issues that I've been dealing with and how I am doing this release daily to really help relieve some of my symptoms. Because quickly, what can happen is when this muscle gets tight, which is really common, especially since a lot of us sit a lot of us don't maybe have the best posture. There's all sorts of reasons. But when this muscle gets tight and out of alignment, it can cause your pelvis to rotate on one side. It can cause your low back to kind of pull in a funny way. It can cause all sorts of twisting, torsion, and rotation in your pelvis and your core. So let me show you the position and then I'll explain a little more about why that's a problem. All right, all you'll need for this is a strap or a belt or a scarf. Is really ideal. You don't have to have it, but it really does help. So if you have a yoga strap or belt or scarf, something you can tie around your thighs, you're gonna get so much more out of this. So I'll meet you down on the floor. Okay, come on down onto your back. And I do, before we get into the pose, I want to tell you that I learned this technique from Genevieve from Nourishing Therapies. I'll put her information in the video notes. I always believe in giving credit where credit is due. So come on to your back. And in this position, if you can picture the anatomy like I was showing you before of where the psoas is. So it starts again in your low back. And you kind of almost, in this position, you can think of it almost cradling your internal organs. So your guts, your intestines, and all of that are actually sitting on top of the psoas major. And the psoas major is going to scoop up underneath and then hook onto your thigh bones. So it's kind of like a little shallow bowl right here. Now, if you think about how they are hooked, the psoas is hooked to your low back, to your lumbar spine, you can see how in this position, when we're really, really relaxed, and I'll show you more about how to use this in a second, when you're really, really relaxed, gravity is going to help pull and release and relax everything back into place, which is really, really cool. You're going to really bring a lot of awareness to this part of your body, and you're going to feel how one side might be kind of jacked up compared to the other. Like for me, my right side is very, very tight. My pelvis is rotated on the right, my core is twisted, all this stuff is going on because my right psoas is very tight. And so I can feel when I do this awareness and relaxation technique that gravity is helping me to release everything, and everything pulls back down into alignment because gravity is pulling everything down, and I can feel my body equalizing and sinking into the floor. And I want you to feel that too if you also have an imbalance like I do. So what you do is, if you do have a strap or something you can place around your thighs, you're going to go ahead and do that right now. And you just want to lie down on your back. Your head can be on a very small little folded towel or pillow if you need to. Ultimately, you're pretty flat on the ground like I am in your upper body, but if your chin is poking up toward the ceiling because you're real tight back here, or if you feel like it's really strainful on your neck, then you can definitely put your head on something, small, kind of a small pillow would be fine. But this is simply this strap. My legs are actually, they have probably about this much room in between my legs. They're not jammed together. They have a little bit of space between my legs. So they're not super, super close, but they're also not flopping apart. And that's why this strap is here, just to make sure that I don't really have to put any effort into keeping my legs upright and together. So the strap is helping them just be able to really, really relax. Now the key is that our legs are not too close, because the hip flexor, the action of the hip flexor is to flex your hips, to move them like this. And so the muscles shorten as your legs come up in this position here. So we don't want the muscles too short. That's why we don't want them, our legs way up here. Now we also don't want our legs, way down here, because when that happens, it starts to kind of activate our core, our abs. Our hip flexors are kind of trying to resist the fact that they're coming down and they're sort of dangling in midair. So you want to be very, very neutral with your legs so that everything can just let go. Your deep core muscles can let go, and your hip flexors are just in that nice neutral position. They're not too short and they're not overly extended. They're just really, really neutral. Now, if you happen to have a bolster or something like that, you can play with putting a bolster under, well, that's too high. You can play with putting a bolster underneath your legs as well. Just make sure that it's the right size. This actually probably isn't the best because I feel like I'm squeezing against it when I bring my feet back. So play with it. If you have some kind of pillow that makes you feel like you can really just let your legs go in this position, that's fine. Otherwise, skip it. Okay. So now that we have our really nice position, we're not too close and we're not too far away. Our knees are at about a 90-degree angle, right there, about 90 degrees. You are going to simply breathe, and you're going to bring your awareness down into your belly, because that psoas muscle, it lies deep within your belly, really. So you're going to bring your breathing down low, and I want you to just start this deep diaphragmatic breathing where you're breathing and letting your belly and your lower ribs expand 360 degrees all the way around on the inhale, and then on the exhale, everything comes in. So on your own, keep breathing with me. You're gonna breathe into your low belly, your low ribs, everything expands like a balloon, 360 degrees expansion. And then on the exhale, come on in. Now keep going, and as you're breathing, I want you to try to extend, to lengthen the exhale just a little bit. So let's say you're counting in for 4 counts as you inhale, so 4 counts in, and then you're gonna pause with the full expansive belly breath, and then you're gonna exhale for 8 counts. So I'm gonna let you try that on your own. Just do 1 together, and then I'll let you keep going on your own. So inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, fill, pause. And now exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep going. Inhale for 4, pause at the top, big full inhale, and then exhale for 8. So keep breathing like this, and I want you to bring your focus and awareness down to your belly and down to this area of your body, and really focus on just letting go and releasing and being in the moment, being here with me right now as you breathe. This is very, very relaxing for the nervous system. It's like a massage, really, for your vagus nerve, which is the vagabond nerve that wanders around through your thorax, through the torso of your body, and innervates all sorts of very, very important organs, including your gut. And it goes actually through the area of your diaphragm in such a way that when you breathe fully and expansively, it's like your breathing diaphragm is giving the vagus nerve a little massage and telling it to calm down and stimulate that parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest nervous system, which is going to ultimately allow your muscles to release, which is why we're doing this breathing. It's bringing you into the present moment. It's heightening your mind and body awareness, and it's allowing your muscles to let go. So as you're continuing to breathe, what I want you to do is feel this very subtle sensation of that psoas muscle. So as you're breathing, bring your attention and awareness to where the muscle is in your body, how it starts in the low back and kind of travels forward and hooks onto your thigh bone. So it's traveling and scooping like a little bowl in this position underneath our internal organs, scooping up and underneath and hooking onto our thigh. Feel how you might be more tense on one side. Maybe you feel like it's harder for your diaphragm to fully and expansively breathe, and it's harder for you to get that full deep in-breath on one side or the other. If that's the case, it could be due to tension. For me, it's harder for me to fully and expansively feel that deep in-breath on my right side. I feel stuck on my right side, and that in part is likely due to my tight psoas, because the psoas hooks in on the lumbar spine pretty much right up at the top is where the diaphragm is hooking into. So they're very, very interconnected by the fascia. There's fascial connections between the diaphragm and the psoas. And so if you're stuck and tight in the psoas, it's going to also make you a little bit more stuck and tight in your breathing. So maybe it's harder for your ribs to expand on that side that you're stuck and tight. Maybe you feel like your pelvis is elevated on that one side, or like it's rotated on that one side, or like your back is higher off the floor on that one side, or like your hip in the socket is higher off the floor on that one side. These are all things that I can describe to you because they're all things that I experience because of my tightness on that side, and you might experience them too. So if you feel any of these things, then I want you to just continue to bring your awareness to your breathing and bring your awareness to the very, very subtle unwinding of tension in your psoas that's ultimately going to make your body settle and shift evenly down into the floor as that tight side releases and lets go. It's very, very subtle, and it's a tiny, tiny movement, and it's why you need to spend at least 15 minutes in this position breathing and letting your body recalibrate and release on that tight side. It's also why you want to make sure that your legs are in a position where they're not holding tension. They can relax, which is why the strap is so helpful. Maybe even some pillows that you jam in there and they feel comfortable. Again, you don't want to feel like you're having to resist against the pillows or like they're moving you in a funny way. You just want to be comfortable and unwind. So I'd like for you to please stay in this position, just breathe. When you're doing this on your own, maybe tomorrow, I won't be talking in the background, so you'll probably get more out of it. So just know that when you do this on your own, you can set a timer on your phone, maybe 15 minutes. Just breathe, close your eyes, relax, and tune into the sensation of your body unwinding. But just for today, if you will bear with me here, I'd love to sit up, and while you stay right where you are, stay right where you are. I'm going to sit up for just a moment and explain a little bit more about some of my issues that I have that might relate to you too. And I'm also going to explain the Iliacus self-massage that we can do in a couple of minutes as well. So please just stay where you are and breathe. And I'm going to sit up and explain just a tiny bit more. So the first thing I want to share with you is, again, just some of the connections and the reasons why you might be off kilter on one side, and then the implications of being off kilter. So one reason that you might be tighter on the right, which a lot of people are, is if you're right hand dominant. So for me, I am right-handed, so I do a lot of things with my right side. The right side of the body is also associated, if you're comfortable talking about energy and energetics, the right side of the body is associated with the masculine, with the doing, with the busyness. And a lot of us in society today are very busy and we're always going. And so we are moving forward, and the right side of our body can tend to be a little bit tired and overdone and tight and fatigued and exhausted. So those are two issues that I personally have. Another thing is that we drive with our right foot on the gas pedal, moving between the gas pedal and the brake. And especially if your car has kind of a bucket seat where your hips are lower than your knees, like I am right now, this is a position where you are already tight in the psoas, because again, the psoas is a hip flexor. So you're already in a shortened position of that psoas. And so every time you move between the gas and the brake, and you're kind of maybe hovering, maybe you're tense, stuck in traffic, always going between that gas and the brake, that's gonna tighten up this right side. One more thing that I personally noticed from having this restriction on my right side that might be interesting to you if you're working on your abs is that I carried my baby, my son, when I was pregnant with him 13 years ago, I carried him over to my left. And now that I understand about these restrictions on one side, it makes so much sense. Because if you're really restricted on one side, the pressure of everything has to go somewhere else. So I'm very restricted on my right side. And if you imagine this like a balloon, or this is a deflated ball, imagine restriction on this side. Look at what happens off to the other side. Again, the pressure has to go somewhere. So I carried my baby kind of strangely to the left, and I'm still dealing with weakness and less tone of my muscles on the left side of my abdomen. So I had a bit of a separation of the abdomen, not too much, but a little bit, and I'm still really working on rehabbing the left side. One more thing that you might actually experience if you're like me is if you have a history of digestive distress or anything like that, you might find that your muscles are tense and holding on one side or the other. So for me, I grew up with a lifetime of digestive health issues, pain that would send me to the hospital, stomach pain. And oftentimes it was both the right and the left, but when I was on the right side or the left side, what happens is your body naturally responds to pain by tensing and contracting. So it's very, very normal and common, and it's actually your body trying to help you and protect you by tensing up. But when that happens over and over time, it's going to pull things out of alignment. And so for me, I do believe that this is part of the issue of why my right-sided psoas is so tight, is everything I just said, the driving, the being right-handed dominant, years and years of stomach pain. All of this has led to tightening, a rotation of my pelvis, a twisting of my core. And then, interestingly, because of the fascial connections, this has contributed to a perpetuation of my body's digestive issues, which luckily I've got a hold on now. But this may really ring true with you. If you have had digestive issues and maybe you have something called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and if you discover that you have this right-sided tension in your psoas, if you think of how the whole body is connected through a network of fascia, which is demonstrated by these elastic cords here. This network of fascia is basically what connects our entire body. Our body is just a bag of bones and muscles, which is kind of like these little sticks. It's basically suspended in this web of fascia, which is the elastic on here. So if one thing is tight, tense, out of alignment, let's say like that, it's going to tug on everything else. The entire body is interconnected. You can't move one area without it affecting the entire system. So if you are tight on the right side, your fascia, which goes around your intestines, your internal organs, your pelvic organs, it's all going to shift and be constricted as well. And for me, I do believe that one of the reasons SIBO kept coming back for me is because if you're all constricted here, it can cause your ileocecal valve, which is this little valve in your guts, that if it's kind of open and not really working right, it's going to allow bacteria to travel back into your intestines where they shouldn't be. Bacteria is normal in our intestines, but if they're traveling into places they shouldn't be, you can develop issues like SIBO, which can cause gas and bloating and pain, which can just perpetuate this pain, tension, and holding cycle. So this is why it's so important to calm mind and body with deep breathing, to massage those organs with deep breathing, to bring your awareness to the muscles with deep breathing and relaxation, and to do techniques like this unwinding relaxation pose. It's so simple, but it's actually very, very powerful, and it can help so much. It can help digestion. Once everything releases, it can help shift things back into place all over the body, potentially even helping with things like prolapse, pelvic pain, things like that. So this technique is incredibly helpful and incredibly important if you're consistent with it. And if the next time you do it, you just are relaxing and I'm not chattering in your ear. But I hope it was helpful for me to give you some background of the reasons why you might be tight on one side and how doing poses like this and techniques like this can actually help so many things, not just your muscular tension, but your posture, your alignment, your digestion, your pain, everything. So the last thing I want to share with you is that Iliacus self-massage technique that I teased about at the beginning. So I'm going to stand up and show you where the iliacus is again. So it's a fan-shaped muscle right here on the inside of your pelvis that hooks onto your thigh. Psoas, iliacus. So I want you to see how when I hook my fingers around this pelvis or my thumb, I would be right on that area. So you can feel those anterior hip spikes right here, the anterior superior iliac spines of your pelvis, ASIS, anterior superior iliac spines. And then you can travel your finger up this ridge and then hook on over with your fingers like this or with your thumb, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And you can do this lying down. Now everybody's anatomy and body shape is a little different, and it might be harder or easier for you to find this area, but just do the best you can if you'd like to give it a try. So the iliacus can be also something that's very tight and tense, and it's going to relax with the pose we're doing, but with this pose we're doing, we're really kind of focusing on that psoas. So now to get the iliacus as well, you can use your fingertips like I was showing, or your thumb, whatever feels better to you, but use it kind of like a hook. So find those hip points, those hip spikes, and you're going to travel up just a little bit along the bony ridge of your pelvis. You can even use your thumbs and feel that bony ridge of your pelvis. Now find that spike again, travel up just a little bit, and then hook your fingers into that area. And you can do both sides at once, or you can just do one side at a time, whatever feels good to you. For me, my right side is the one that I can feel. There's so much more tenderness. It actually feels bulkier on that side. It feels bulkier. So I'm going to focus my attention more on my right side. Now what you do is you just find that area, just sort of feel around in there. Feel around. It's going to be potentially quite tender. And you're going to find a spot that feels like you can definitely feel sensation. And it might even refer sensation to another area. This is called referred pain, and it happens when you're on a trigger point. The pain and sensation can actually refer to other parts of your body. So if that happens, don't be surprised. And what I'd like for you to do is just find a spot that really feels like it needs some pressure to release it. And you simply hold firm but gentle, steady pressure on that spot for 60 to 90 seconds while you breathe deeply. So your thumb might get a little bit tired. And in this position, when you're doing this, and I also should have mentioned it about the psoas release earlier, you might feel your muscles kind of flickering a little bit. That's normal. It's okay. Your muscles kind of flicker and twitch a little bit before they let go. So you might have felt that earlier or tomorrow when you're doing the psoas release on your own. And then you might even feel a little something now. You might feel some flickers, or you might not. You might feel the muscles actually release and soften. Or you might not today, and that's okay. Wherever you are is perfect. But the key is you hold that firm, steady pressure and you breathe. Now, when that 60 to 90 seconds is up, rather than just lifting your hand quickly off, I recommend doing little tiny circles in that area. Little tiny circles to just sort of slowly release the pressure rather than just jumping right off. So you can do that on one or both sides. And honestly, if you don't get the exact right area, as long as it feels like it's releasing and getting your muscles and kind of feeling like it's in an area that's beneficial for you, you're fine. Just enjoy the sensation, and of course, speak with a physical therapist or a trained practitioner of some sort, a massage therapist, chiropractor, osteopath, somebody who can help you identify the muscles and help you learn how to do some of these self-massage techniques on your own. They're very, very powerful, and they're something that you can do any time of day. And the final thing is to remember to sign up for my at-home pelvic tension retreat. It's going to be different than this. This is just something you can do between now and the retreat time to get you ready. But the retreat is going to be 3 days of stretches and breathing and releasing exercises to just have a well-rounded relaxation, stretch, and letting go session, an awareness session of your pelvic and hip and deep core muscles. So please sign up for that using the notes in the video, or using the links in the video notes. It'll also be in the pinned comment, and I'll make sure that those links always stay updated so you can access the 3-day retreat even if you're watching this in the future. I hope this psoas release has been helpful for you. I hope you'll try it and let me know what you think. It's very subtle, but it's very effective when you really tune in and let go. Until next time, eat clean, move every day, and you will shine brighter. Bye.